Power Rankings, Week 17. We got a lot to discuss. We got a lot to talk about. But before we do, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that thumbs up, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Click that bell, turn on your notifications so you don't miss a stream or miss content. NFL, college, NBA, all that good stuff. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about before we get into the predictions and all that fun stuff. I do want to address the Ravens and the 49ers game. Right, there's been so much talk and so much discussion as far as with Brock Purdy and what he's done in the field and whether or not he should be out of the MVP discussion. And I do think we can start there. I do think we can lay the groundwork to this stream in regards to starting there. Now, as far as with Brock Purdy and these 49ers, I don't think one game is going to take them out or take him out of the MVP conversation. What I will say is this: if you go back and look at the 3-loss streak that they had in regards to Brock Purdy's performance, a lot of you have been saying, well, it's just one game. It's just one game. It shouldn't matter. It's actually not just one game. It's actually multiple games. And if you go look at the actual percentage of his stats in regards to his attempts, it's kind of in this window of, right around 30 attempts, 27, 25, right around there in these games that he's lost. And then obviously you look at his completions, right around 12, 15, 20. But the most important thing that I take away from those 3 losses in a row was the sacks, the interceptions, right? The defenses that he was playing against, the way that he was being hurried up, and just the overall focus as far as where the defense was able to blitz and get through that offensive line and bring down Brock Purdy and make him hurry up and get out of that pocket, which leads to him being less accurate, which leads to him throwing under pressure, making mistakes, and just overall having a terrible experience out there on the field. Now, when we talk about him being MVP caliber quarterback, I think it goes without saying that yes, we can appreciate his skill set. We could appreciate the game that he has brought to the 49ers. And we shouldn't discredit him because he had a few bad games, right? We're not going to say he had one because he had a few. You can say, well, Jay, he had injured players and different, things like that. The reality is this: when you step out on that field, you are supposed to go out there and win. And if you don't, then obviously we're going to sit here and we're going to calculate and go through everything as far as the analytics and the stats and figure out why. So it doesn't, in a sense, excuse the fact of that you lost because you had injuries, because other teams have injuries. We have to stop using that excuse and really say, okay, this individual can't win unless they have this specific team together or this specific group of people together at 100%. And I can respect that. I can understand that, right? But when we say, oh, well, they lost because they had injuries, well, then we're just making excuses. Because you don't make excuses for the wins. You start making excuses for the losses. And me, myself, personally, I don't do it, right? We have these weeks where it's like, oh, we lose or we have these issues in these situations as far as with the Bills. We talk about the defense, right? Oh, the defense, we had so many injuries. Well, I don't get into that because you have 52 men on the roster. You have to make sure that you have the personnel who's needed to check in if somebody goes down. If you start relying on one individual to basically make your whole team, well, that's going to lead to the downfall. So, we got to stop looking at as far as injuries and making excuses for why people lose. And then we have to start looking at the coaches and who they choose for personnel on their team to basically play back up to who goes down. So, before we get started, moving on, shout out to the Wrench Gang. Shout out to the family, all the listeners, all the watchers. Much love to you guys. D-Tunzo, what up, man? What's going on with you? Shane 01 says Dak Prescott has better numbers than Lamar. Okay, but we can talk about the significant losses, right? We'll get into that. Immortal says Bears number 10. Shout out to you, Immortal. So shout out to the beanie. Yeah, I feel it feels good. I like it. It's real nice and comfortable. Keeps the ears warm, without a doubt. Immortal says, so who you got now? Your paper lions? Immortal's still not a believer. That's a fact. Shane 01 says Brock Purdy wishes he could play the Cardinals every day. Every day. Shout out to Wendy. What's going on with you, Wendy? Shantae in the house. Astrology in the building says relax. I am here. Let's go. Matt F, what up, man? What's going on with you? Who you got, Bucks or Saints? We're gonna get into that in a minute. We'll get into the predictions in a minute. The Miz says, "What's good, Jay? Wrench Gang and the fam." All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to go ahead and hop into a couple things as far as the current standings, and we'll dive into that right now. Actually, we'll dive into that right now, and then we'll go ahead and break down the predictions. Shout out to you, Francisco. What up, man? What's going on with you? All right, let's go ahead and dive into these standings here, ladies and gentlemen. So obviously we got Miami clinching the AFC East, or making it to the playoffs rather. Made it to the playoffs. They didn't clinch the East yet. As far as the Bills, 9-6, got the Jets are eliminated, Patriots eliminated, getting into the AFC North. Baltimore obviously making it to the playoffs. Cleveland Browns 10-5, Steelers 8-7, Bengals 8-7. Still in this weird spot where the AFC North is absolutely crazy right now. I do love the Browns. Like I said, we get into these conversations in regards to Flacco and what he's able to do out in the field. They're in a three-win streak right now. So yeah, I do think when it comes to the playoffs and these Browns, it's going to be a tough time for where they go against in the first round. Then you get into the Steelers and the Bengals. I'm not a big fan of the Steelers right now as far as offensively and what they're doing. And the Bengals as well, right? I believed in Browning. I was like, you know what? He may be able to go out there and, hold the fort down for Burrow, but I just don't see it happening. So we may not see the Steelers or the Bengals moving forward. But I do think the Browns are going to make it. As far as AFC South, we get into the conversation as far as the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans. They're still in the hunt. They're all 8-7. The Titans are out at 5-10. Right now, I mean, the real question is what's going on with Trevor Lawrence, right? We get into the conversation of as far as this team right now, they're on a 4 game losing streak. They're 8-7, 3-5 at home, 5-2 away. It's really tough right now because there's a lot of factors that could go into place as far as whether or not any one of these teams can control the AFC South. Obviously, with the Colts, I was a believer in Gardner Minshew because of the talent they have on that team, and he just took a loss. And then the Texans with Stroud being out and all that kind of stuff. So it's really tricky right now as far as the AFC South. And potentially, I do see maybe the Jags pulling up their bootstraps and getting it together, hopefully, and being able to move forward and take control of the AFC South and move forward to the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see. Next after that, it's going to be the AFC West. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to say about these Chiefs right now. They are in complete disarray. They're 9-6. Raiders are 7-8. For some reason, these Raiders have just came out of nowhere and decided to play some excellent football. And highlighting as far as what happened with the Chiefs, some people are saying it's a Taylor Swift curse. I don't believe it's that. I think right now the Chiefs are just basically going through the blues, right? They're going through that post Super Bowl run and just don't have the personnel to get the job done on the field. You could say that Mahomes needs some help. I agree. The contract, hey, you pay somebody $500 million. You might want to save some money next time to get some more wide receivers on that field that can help them for sure. Next after that, it's going to be the Broncos. They're also in this weird situation with the Raiders, but I don't know, right? Sean Payton, he's done his best to turn around this team. Russell Wilson's kind of had a really quiet, interesting year as far as his stats. Some people are saying that he may be in the conversation as far as comeback player of the year. I don't think so. I think there are a few other candidates that we can get into as far as that discussion. But I don't think the Broncos are going to do anything moving forward. I think Chiefs will close it out. They'll take the AFC West, head to the playoffs, and then do what the Chiefs can potentially do as far as with what they have. I don't have any hope in the Chiefs this year. Maybe they can rebuild next year, and we may see them in the AFC Championship moving forward. All right. Getting into the NFC, you've got the Eagles and then the Cowboys obviously heading to the playoffs. Giants are out. Commanders are out. The Lions obviously clinched the North. Then you got the Vikings, the Packers, and then the Bears, which it's really weird because the Vikings and the Packers are in this situation again where they could get a wild card ticket. Obviously, Mullins. This kid's a gunslinger. I like Mullins. I really do. At the end of the day, I mean, I do feel like he's one of those quarterbacks that we just kind of like have written off. But then he shows up in certain games, and I definitely think they gave a hell of a time to the Lions. And they could have definitely won that game. But, of course, they didn't. They took that loss. Then the Packers in this weird situation as well with, Jordan Love. He balls out. It's getting down to the wire. And I think out of these two teams, I do feel like the Vikings may have a little bit more as far as a competitive edge. So they may be able to get their spot into a wild card. I'm not sure about the Packers moving forward. Then getting to the NFC South, right? The Buccaneers, you got, Baker Mayfield trying to make a stand here. They won four in a row. Then the Atlanta Falcons, Desmond Ritter, the Saints, and Carr. I'm not really sure who's going to basically take it between those two. But for right now, the Buccaneers are holding down the South. I think they take it, the division. After that, it's going to be NFC West. You got the 49ers clinching 11-4. Rams 8-7, Seahawks 8-7. I'm not sure about the Seahawks. I do feel like Matthew Stafford and company will make a potential run for the wild card. We could see Matt Stafford come through and really, really say, hey, I know you guys forgot about me, but guess what? I'm back. It's been very interesting to see what they can do as far as in the NFC. And it'll be an interesting story if the Rams can definitely make a deep push within the playoffs there. So there's going to be your AFC, NFC standings and conversation in regards to the playoffs. All right. So hopping back over to the chat, ladies and gentlemen, hopping back over to the chat before we get into these predictions. Shout out to Wendy, says, hey, Jay, talk that talk. Shout out to you, Wendy. Steve says, let's see a Seattle Buffalo Super Bowl still on the table. It's possible. It's possible. I don't know if it'll really happen, though, but it is possible. Mortal says, who's better, elite indoor team, Detroit or Dallas? It depends who they're playing and whether or not Dallas is playing at home, right? Dallas playing at home, they're like juggernauts. They're elite. But when they go out on that road, we seen what happened. Shout out to Sherry, says, go Hawks. What else we got? You can't blame someone that is not on the field like Taylor. Yo. Shout out to Shantae, says the Raiders are actually playing for someone they respect. And you know what? I do agree with that. I think the Raiders are definitely putting up a good fight right now. They're showing heart. They're showing grit. They're playing that really, really gritty style of football that we haven't seen in a long time. And I don't think really, these teams expected it, right? We get into the Chiefs conversation as far as what's going on with Mahomes, and especially in that Raiders game, we've seen him make multiple mistakes that we've never seen him make. And, it's kind of funny because the Raiders really didn't have to do much on offense. The defense took care of business. And like they say, defense wins championships. And for the case of the Raiders, the defense wins regular season games. So there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So next up, we'll go ahead and get into these predictions. Jacob says, yo, Jay, what do you think the Thursday Night Football would be for a blowout? We'll see. We'll get into that next. Make sure you guys hit that like, that thumbs up. It is much, much appreciated. Jason says, hey, Jay, thoughts on the Browns? They're one of the few teams that beat both San Francisco and Baltimore. So the Browns, I think, are a dark horse. I really do, right? There's a lot of hype surrounding Flacco right now. The real question is whether or not he's going to be able to keep the consistency that he needs to make a deep push into the playoffs. And then obviously if that defense can remain as fresh and, as game ready as they have been, that's going to be the biggest question, right? Because you can look good in the regular season and look great and then obviously bomb out and one game into the playoffs and be one and done, right? And it leads to a good story. Flacco came back and Browns made it to the playoffs. Next year, all right, we'll see what we can do with Deshaun. I think at the end of the day, the Browns could be that one team that everyone's sleeping on. And depending on what happens as far as with the Bills and the Chiefs and, Baltimore, I do think right now the road that leads to the AFC is through Baltimore. That's what I think right now. And as crazy as it is, the AFC North looks absolutely nasty. It looks absolutely nasty, no matter how you look at it. The Baltimore Ravens are the team to beat. And to me, they look like the best in the AFC right now for sure. Shout out to you, Ernie. What up, man? What's going on with you? Stoney in the house, the same old Browns. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into these predictions. We are at week 17. Week 17 predictions. And it's going to start off Thursday night football, ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, this is actually the last week that we have until January 7th. So week 17 will be it for this year. And then we won't have football or NFL football until week 18, which will be on January 7th, which is the Sunday after this coming one. So, yeah. So after this week, we'll obviously have some college football for you guys. I'll be streaming the national championship, and then we'll be going over as far as our playoff predictions and all that stuff. But let's get into week 17. Here we go. We got Thursday night. It's going to be the Jets and the Browns. I do think this is going to be a good one. You have two strong defenses within the Jets and the Browns. Like I said, this is going to be Thursday night. I'm going to go ahead and once again give the Browns the edge at home because they have a strong defense. They have a strong offense. I think they're going to play a little bit better at home against the Jets, even though the Jets do have a strong defense. I think it's going to be a game that is very close. That's what we're seeing now as far as these games that are coming down the pipe. I'm going to go ahead and take the Browns by 7 there. Browns by 7 at home. After that, Saturday, we got a great one as far as the Lions and the Cowboys. I do think this is going to be a great one. I do think this is going to be probably the biggest game of week 17. We know that Dallas is huge at home. They play elite. They play great. They're juggernauts. We got into the conversation as far as when they're on the road versus they're at home. They're immaculate. So at this point, can the Lions keep up? Will they have, a good enough defense that can stop Dak Prescott and these boys at home and put another blemish on their record? I don't think so. I think the Lions are going to have a tough time with the Cowboys at home. They're coming off two terrible losses. I don't see it being three in a row. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give Dak Prescott and this team the benefit of the doubt at home and say they take it by 7 as well. So 7-point game. Dallas takes it at home. Next after that is going to be our Sunday games, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have the Patriots versus my Bills Mafia. You guys already know, taking my Bills, but this is a game that the Bills Mafia should not sleep on for multiple reasons. Obviously, already took the loss. In regards to the Patriots, Bill Belichick is just one of those individuals who always is playing chess, not checkers. He's going to find a way to win and potentially use all the pieces on the board that he needs to in regards to playing against these Bills. So, with that said, I'm not going to give the Bills something crazy as far as a blowout. I will say that they're probably not going to cover the spread, but I'm going to say the Bills win by 10. I'm going to go by 10. After that, it's going to be the Falcons versus the Bears. And I do like this one, right? I do like this as far as, Ritter, and you've got Fields out there. I've been riding the Bears train for I think the last 3 weeks. I think. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bears again for this week at home. I'll take them by 3. I think it'll be a close game. It'll probably come down to a field goal. After that's going to be the Raiders and the Colts. And right now, with the way the Raiders are looking, I think I might have to go to the Raiders, right? That defense is looking solid right now. They're making big plays and taking advantage of lousy offense and lousy play calling. So I'm just going to roll with the Raiders on this one. I'll take them by a touchdown. After that, it's going to be the Rams and the Giants. The situation with Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, and Tyrod Taylor. I think Tyrod Taylor is probably going to start in this game because it is going to be probably very, very, very intense. And New York's going to need all the help they can get. I do think this would be a great one against the Rams. I don't think it's going to be just a complete win for the Rams. I do think they'll take it, though. I'm going to go ahead and give them the win by 7. After that, it's going to be the Cardinals and the Eagles. And we know that the Cardinals have just been in this weird situation where they find a way to win against tough teams. So this could be one of those games where you see the Eagles potentially get upset, right? It's just possible. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm at a toss-up right now. I'm at a 50-50. I really do think this is a 50-50 game because Arizona decides to surprise us sometimes. And this very well could be one. And whether or not the Eagles will get upset at home is going to be, the telltale factor as far as whether or not this team has the chemistry that we know that they can have, especially playing in Philly. So I'm going to go ahead and give these Eagles the benefit of the doubt, and I'll take them by 7. After that, it's going to be the Saints and the Buccaneers, and I do think this is going to be a great one as well. You have two teams that are in this basically the same situation as far as trying to get to the playoffs. I do think it's going to be a dogfight between Carr and Baker Mayfield. So with that said, I think it's going to come down to the wire. Both defenses may step up on both sides, but I'm going to have to take Baker and company, and I do think that Tampa Bay will take it by a touchdown at home. After that, it's going to be the 49ers and the Commanders. Now, I'd be remiss to say, obviously, this should be a blowout, right? This should be a blowout. But we've seen what the Commanders can do against a team like the Eagles. Now, obviously, 49ers coming off of a terrible loss. The real question is, can this team basically utilize what they've seen in the tape against the Ravens and put that pressure on Purdy, put that pressure on that offensive line, break through, and get the stops that they need to potentially make it a game. On the flip side, I don't know if I trust Sam Howell to basically be able to get through San Francisco's defense because they're out for blood right now. So I'm not going to disrespect San Francisco and say that the Commanders will beat them, but I will only be giving them about 12 points in this game. After that's going to be the Panthers and the Jags. And is this going to be the Trevor Lawrence comeback game? I mean, it is the Panthers. But at the same time, you can't really sleep on the Panthers because we've seen what just happened with the Packers, right? Panthers are finding some new light. They're finding some new offense. With that said, I would hope to see Mr. Lawrence comes through and this team and this offense starts clicking. But the real question is, will they do it? I'm not sure. Once again, another 50-50 game. And at the end of the day, the Panthers could very well go to Jacksonville and take a W and make it really interesting. All eyes are on Bryce Young in this offense and whether or not they can follow up on that close loss that they had and make it a game. Do I disrespect Trevor Lawrence and say Bryce Young may beat you? I guess I got to go against the grain and say yes, I do. I feel like they're motivated. I feel like they put up a solid fight against the Packers team that has great chemistry right now. And Jacksonville just does not have that identity that we know them to have. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the Panthers on this one. I'll say they take it by a field goal. We'll go a field goal. After that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a crazy one, an absolutely crazy one. It's going to be the Dolphins at the Ravens. Now, listen, I think Rog had commented on Facebook on a post that I put up. He said, "Jay, you completely disregarded something that I said, or you completely ignored me during the stream." I'm like, yo, I had like 3,500 people in the stream. I'm trying to talk to people. I'm trying to commentate the game. I apologize if I didn't follow up to your question, but I did address it, and we'll get into it right now. As far as the issues that I'm seeing with Miami right now, I don't think it's really a problem as far as with offense specifically. But what I'm seeing in this specific game, whether or not you watched what happened with Brock Purdy, I think the same thing can happen with Tua because that offensive line has been protecting him. He's been able to get rid of that ball fairly fast. And the real question is, can Tua stand the defense that's coming for him off the edge and play the same kind of game that Brock Purdy played? Because right now, if he does, and if Mike McDaniel doesn't basically game plan for that and make the proper adjustments needed, you're going to see picks, you're going to see fumbles, and you're definitely going to see Tua getting sacked because he may not have enough time to make a play with the way that this Ravens defensive line is playing. With that said, you're going into Baltimore. I don't think you guys come out with a win. So I'm going to take Baltimore by 14, ladies and gentlemen. After that, it's going to be Houston versus Tennessee. It's going to be the Titans versus the Texans. I do think this will be a good one. Obviously, you're going to have Levis and then the backup quarterback for the Texans. I'm not sure as far as what they're doing or whether or not Stroud is back yet. I haven't got an update for that. With that said, if Stroud is back in, obviously I would take the Texans. If he's not, then I'm going to go ahead and take the Titans by 7. I'll take the Titans by a touchdown. After that, it's going to be the Steelers versus the Seahawks, ladies and gentlemen. Steelers, Seahawks. I mean, right now we're trusting Drew Lock versus Mason Rudolph. I do think this is going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. And, you got Seattle at home. They're very good at home, I think. I think Drew Lock's coming through with a new level of, chemistry with this team, especially with that win against the Eagles. So I will give Seattle the benefit of the doubt. I'll take them at home by a touchdown. After that's going to be the Chargers and the Broncos, and you have Easton Stick versus Russell Wilson at home. I feel like Easton Stick put up such a fight against the Bills that I just may have to automatically take these Chargers against the Broncos. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be the same kind of game, but with the way the defense is set up with the Chargers right now, I just think that Russell's going to have a hard time getting through. Um, that secondary there as far as getting the pass off, and then the run game, they're very good at stopping the run. So yeah, we could go Chargers for this one. I'm thinking the Chargers may take it by 7 in Denver. After that, it's going to be the Bengals in Kansas City, ladies and gentlemen. Kansas City and Cincinnati. Um, what do we say about the Chiefs right now? What do we say about Patrick Mahomes in regards to this team and whether or not uh, they're going to be able to get over the hump, make the necessary adjustments, make the necessary changes, and fix this team? I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure they will. Considering what the Raiders just did, I mean, can the Bengals do it as well? Sure. Right? Can they go into Kansas City and get a win? Probably. Probably. I don't think, the Chiefs right now have the chemistry. I don't think the defense is really playing at a high elite level right now. I don't think that offensive line really believes in Patrick Mahomes right now as far as with all the uh the issues and mistakes that he's making. So I do think we'll have another close game on Sunday, and it's probably going to come down to another Patrick Mahomes pick six, and we may see the Bengals take it. Bengals may take it in a close one. I'll take them by 7. I think some crazy stuff's going to happen this week. After that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up with the Packers and the Vikings. Packers Vikings. This is going to be on Sunday night. I think this is probably going to be one of the best games that we've had all season. Right? You've got a Sunday night Packers Vikings. There may be a lot riding on this specific game as well. So yeah, will Jordan Love step up? Will Mullen step up? Um, I'm probably going to go Vikings at home. I do think that their defense is a little stronger. I do think they're, upset as far as what happened in that close game with the Lions. I think they come out swinging, they come out hot, and they put up a quick lead. And Green Bay may have a hard time coming back. And yeah, I'm gonna go with those Vikings there on Sunday night by 7, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. There you go. That is going to be your Week 17 predictions, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to you guys. Uh, Shout out to Teresa. What up? What's going on with you? Stony says the Nagy effect. Yo, it's bad. It's so bad. Morto says I agree too. Vikings win at home. Yeah, I think they take it at home. I think they take it at home. When you look at everything that the Vikings have done as far as trying to bring in Dobbs and him going on a little run and then fizzling out and then Mullins coming in. I think right now there's a lot of questionable dynamics as far as within the team and within that locker room. But the Vikings as a core unit, as far as with their offense, they should be able to pull it off. I know they got some injuries, but they should be okay against the Packers. Shout out to Ernest. What up, man? I'm doing good. I'm doing good for sure. How you doing today? Davis says, hello, Jay. What's good with you? I'm trying to grasp the ticket sales. Baltimore tickets as low as $242. Happy New Year when you get there. Uh, I'm not sure about that. I don't know why the ticket sales will be that low, considering it's the last week against Miami. That's a big game. Um, who knows, man? It could be the weather, right? I know the weather probably plays a big factor into that, but it is the Ravens, right? They're having a hell of a year, so you think the tickets may be a little bit more expensive. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Shout out to Tactical says stick. Yo, I just don't like it, man. I don't like it. I feel when I say Easton Stick's name, it's just like a dagger right now. Even though the Bills won that game, it's just like Easton Stick, really? And that's no disrespect because he's an NFL player, and he's for the most part he looked really really decent out there. The real question is, can they keep it up? That's going to be the real question. He'll gain out respect if they do. That's for sure. Says the memes and talk is insane after these Christmas games. Oh yeah, yeah. We can get into the memes and just the hot takes and how crazy everything's been. It's been really wild as far as everything that has went on. And I think at the end of the day, um, the Chiefs are going through it, right? Brock Purdy, he's now getting a lot of flack for throwing 4 interceptions, and he should, right? The 49ers were known as the bullies, right, over the last 5 weeks. How many ever weeks? They were known as the bullies. And so, when the bully gets bullied, that's where things start to, become eye opening, right? A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Brock Purdy's a fraud." He's not a fraud. All right, he did have another bad game. This is something that he is going to have to learn from. And do I see it happening again? Probably not. I do think they're probably going to go into that Arizona game with probably more of a, running approach, short pass approach. He'll probably be more reluctant to try to throw the deep ball because of that, that defensive line. And these are the kind of games that will shake you up as a quarterback, right? They'll make you think first before throwing that ball, and whether or not his confidence is back in that Arizona game, that's probably going to be the real question as far as whether or not they do win it and win it convincingly. Because I do think the Arizona game is going to be the game where they come back and they show like, look at us now. We're still the 49ers and we put up 30 or 40 points, because that's what you should do if you're that team, right? If you are still the bullies that we think you could be. But if you don't play that way and Arizona comes out with a win, what kind of conversation are we having then, right? Because I still think Brock Purdy's in the conversation as far as MVP. I don't think that one loss is going to determine whether or not he should or should not get it. But I do think if you have a follow up loss to that game, and the whole dynamic changes as far as the way that you're playing because your confidence is down or you just keep making the same kind of mistakes, then we're most likely looking at somebody else to step into that conversation from a high point as far as for MVP for sure. So yeah, context is I would pick all the home teams this week. I mean, I wouldn't do that because something's going to change. Something's going to happen, my friend. Like it's not going to happen that way. Uh, Baltimore over Miami, yeah, yeah, without a doubt, Baltimore over Miami, my friend. Tyler says Raven versus Bills. You know, as much as I would love to see um, Bills versus Baltimore AFC Championship, it is going to be a tough time for anybody. If you have to go to Baltimore in the AFC Championship to get a win, it is going to be a tough, tough time. Obviously, I want to see my Bills Mafia in the AFC Championship, but it's a long road. Still a long road. What do you need? You need 6 more wins, 5 more wins. Yeah, 5 more wins. Um, and that's just the reality of it, right? You got the Patriots coming up, you got Miami, get into the playoffs. Once that's all figured out, it's going to start to get really interesting. I don't think the Browns should be slept on at all. There's been talks as far as Miami going all the way, and sure, I do think they got a solid chance at it. But at the end of the day, when you look at as far as Tyreek, he didn't have many targets last game, and we know why, right? He was still injured, and he's out there trying to basically, stay in the rotation and make big plays when he can. But he didn't get as many targets and things like that, and they basically went with the run game because Miami essentially just took the playbook that the Bills used to beat the Cowboys because it worked, right? You'd be crazy if you didn't pay attention to what the Bills did against the Cowboys and you're like, oh, we're going to go completely different from that. Like, they'd just be stupid. So they basically just borrowed the playbook that the Bills went with and ran the ball through the Cowboys. That's basically what they did all game. When they needed to throw it, they did. And you had the short pass plays, you had a couple long ones. But for the most part, Mostert went off, A Chain went off, and that's how, Miami was able to win that game. With that said, someone had mentioned something to me in regards to what I said, and I said that the Dolphins are the same team. I'm gonna say it again. They're the same team that we seen in the first few weeks of the season. And I said that because if you go back and look at the stats as far as the teams that they played, the Patriots, the Jets, the Commanders, all those teams, even the Raiders, right? All those teams were either were not at the point of 500, or they're not playoff bound. So when we have the conversation as far as whether or not Miami is actually ready to contend with these Super Bowl contenders, uh, I don't think so. Right? I don't think that they're going to progress in the playoffs. I do think if they get there and they have to play a team like the Browns, they're probably going to lose. If they get there and they have to play a team like, let's say Baltimore, they're going to lose. You're probably going to see that tomorrow, right? And I'm saying that because we may see a potential blowout in this game. Because if we don't, then what does that say in regards to the 49ers? Was it just a fluke game, or was Baltimore the real deal? We'll obviously know within that game against the Dolphins. Shout out to Shantae says Hawkinson has the season-ending injury. Yeah, I think he tore his MCO and his ACO. He has MCO and his ACO, and that's just absolutely terrible. That he's out for the season, and those are the kind of injuries that will definitely take you out, not just for the season, but for a long time. I think a lot of the players who have those kind of injuries, when they come back, they're still not the same. It can take a lot out of you. You need to rehab properly. You need to rest. And, at the end of the day, obviously you're hoping that he can come back because I do appreciate his skill set and what he can do out of the field. So hopefully he heals properly. And shout out to Hawkinson as he gets through his injuries. CIA Contact says Russell Wilson won't be a Bronco next year. Um, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I say I'm not sure because I do feel like he had a great year on paper, right? And I'm sure everyone looked at that, but they probably will make, some changes. They may even make some changes as far as his contract goes just to beef up that defense a little bit. They got to figure out the money situation as far as, get better on defense. The offense is great. I like Williams. I like Sutton. I like Judy. As far as Sutton's having a little bit of trouble, but Judy's out there balling whenever he can get the ball, and I feel like you just got to get it to those guys, and they will. So at the end of the day, can I think Wilson may have one more year. I think with the production that he's done this year, I think they'll give him one more year before they really decide to cut ties and move forward with somebody else. Sony says those surgeries are brutal. Yeah, they are. Definitely are. It's crazy. Shout out to Tyler. Says Jay, I'm hearing possibly Russell Wilson bench tomorrow for Jared Stidham. Maybe let's ride time is up. Anyhow, hope you had a Merry Christmas and French. Happy holidays. Bless you all. Shout out to you, Tyler. Yeah, I don't. I mean, they'll do things like this, right? They'll say, all right, sit down for a little bit. We'll bring in this backup, right? And then what'll happen is if the backup comes out there and wins and shows them something different, then they may kind of make a decision as far as, the forward trajectory. If he bombs, right, he has a terrible game, well, guess what? Russell Wilson comes right back in. That's just the reality of it. If Stidham goes in there and they're down by 14 or 21, best believe Russell's going to come back in. And then at that point, you get a fresh Russell, and he may come back and put on the show. That's how it goes. We see it every, time to time, time and time again. So who knows what's going on with Denver? They've got a lot of problems they got to fix. I don't think Russell Wilson's just a problem in itself as well. The defense needs to be restructured. So a lot to discuss there as well. Shout out to Brian to explain how Lions don't make your top 10, but the Chiefs rated 8. The Lions did, unless I messed it up. Let me just go back here. Hold on. Hold on, my friend. Where did I put him? Where did I put him? Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did screw that one up. My bad, y'all. I was a little tired today. Um, hmm. If anything, just to clarify, I mean, my top 4 would stay. If anything, I put Lions in the Bill spot and then basically just drop everything from there. So it would be Lions, Bills, Eagles, Cowboys, Chiefs, and then Rams at 10. So basically, you would just drop the Buccaneers, and then you'd put in the uh, the Lions there at number 5. That's all. So yeah, I was like I said, I was super tired when I did the list, man. It's been a crazy week. Stoney says because the Lions are frauds. No, they're supposed to be there. They're supposed to be there. I'd put Lions at number 5. Number 5. Ryan says, so you got Dallas or Detroit? I'm going Dallas at home, my friend. I'm going Dallas at home. Dallas at home. Let me go ahead and actually fix that now, though. I will fix that now because I do save these lists, and I just want to make sure that I don't have that issue. So let me just fix this here. Let me fix this here, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'll get back to answering your questions and all that good stuff. Don't beat me up. It's been a long week. Christmas, shopping, streaming, yo. It's been wild. It's been wild for sure. Number 9 for the Chiefs, 8 for the Cowboys. Number 7 for the Eagles. 6 for the Bills. 5 for the Lions. 4 for the Dolphins. All right. Yeah, that should fix everything, ladies and gentlemen. That should fix everything. All right. So now I got that saved. All right, perfect. All right, so where are we at? Where are these comments at? Says, do you think Keaton Mitchell's injury proved significant for Baltimore? I mean, I think that's a good question. Once again, when we get into the conversation as far as like injuries and things like that, I think the biggest point is, understanding, like I said earlier, having the proper backups for certain individuals is key. And we look at the coaching and the general managers and all that kind of stuff and the owners as far as the team as a whole spectrum. Do you have the necessary backups for when a star player goes down, and can they potentially fill that spot, even if it's just for 1 week, right? Or if it's for 6, 7 weeks, right? Because you have to game plan and know who you have for the backup, right? Sometimes you got rookies, sometimes you got older veterans. At the end of the day, are you making the right choices as a coach to get the right personnel for those specific people? Once again, one person shouldn't really determine the whole game or really affect the whole game plan. Shout out to Fredo, says even with the injuries, my boy Lamar is showing why he's great. 3,300 yards, 790 rushing. Plus, he was out of the fourth quarter a couple games. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people want to take, Lamar out of the MVP discussion, but I think he's done just enough to be in it for sure. Because at the end of the day, the record speaks for itself, the play speaks for itself, and his skill set, his running ability, his passing ability has definitely improved. And he could be another one that we have a conversation as far as getting into like the comeback player, because he did come back off of an injury. He got that contract, and we got into the conversation as far as different players and different individuals who got major contracts and then literally just didn't show up, just completely died off this season. And he was one of the few that got paid and went out there and balled out. So I definitely think that's something that we have to pay attention to when we're having these conversations about the MVP. Caliker says, how did the 49ers lose? It's very simple. So for some of you who know, as far as, what I basically said before the game even started, I basically told you guys, I said my game plan would be to just blitz Purdy, get him out of that pocket, bring that pressure, and that would disrupt the whole game plan for the 49ers. It would basically just show the cracks as far as whether or not Purdy is ready at this level with that kind of defense. And lo and behold, Harbaugh and company went with that exact same approach that I had mentioned before the game even started and brought the pressure, got Purdy out of that pocket, put their hands up, batted everything down, right? We know that Purdy doesn't throw high, he throws low. So literally, you just put your hands up, and you probably have a high percentage of batting that ball down or picking it off. And the Ravens showed everybody that yesterday, right? You put him in a position to where he feels like he's got to get rid of the ball very fast. He's going to throw it low. You put up your hands, you bat it high in the air. Guess what? I think it's going to float and potentially get picked off, and that's why he had so many picks yesterday. Then you get into, as far as them stopping CMC, which that was huge as well. There was really nothing clicking for the 49ers in all reality. And, as far as Lamar, even with, that crazy situation with the ref tripping him and giving him a safety and all that kind of stuff, I do think the Ravens had a slow start, but then they got it together, right? They made the proper adjustments on the fly. Because I do feel at some point the momentum shift was literally probably start of the second quarter, right? I don't think anybody really knew who was going to win this game because it was 5-3 for probably the whole first quarter. And then once we get into the second quarter, that's where things really started to open up and that defense really started to get on to Brock Purdy. So at the end of the day, even with the passes and things like that, that Purdy did get off, it just wasn't enough to overcome the defense. And by that time, they had already deflated the spirit. And what did I say in the beginning of that game? I said, if you get the 49ers down to a point where you have a solid lead, they can't come back. And that's exactly what we've seen, and that's basically why they lost. Fredo says, we shattered Purdy. I watched him curl up before the line, even collapse on him. That's what happens, man. That's what happens. Shout out to you, Seminole. What up, yo? What's going on with you? Rav says, who has the best D-line in the league right now? Who on that D-line is right now is taking over the D? The best D-line right now, I think it'd have to be the Browns. I think the Browns defense has went from probably a top 5 to probably the best right now. We praise Flacco for everything that he's doing on the offense, but we got to look at that defense as well because the Browns defense has been nothing short of amazing. A lot of people don't want to do the run against it. They don't like, send up the long pass. So they have to do different various things as far as, screens and slants and going short on the pass as far as against the Browns defense because they're tight, they're solid, and they play physical. So at the end of the day, I think the Browns probably have the best defense right now in the league. It says, will Kyle Hamilton being injured change the D at all for the Ravens? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I say that because he was a playmaker, but at the same time, I do think if you put somebody else in that situation, if they're just able to, catch the ball when it's in the air, make a big play, I do think they'll be able to do the same thing. Jimmy says, images Purdy sleeping in the fetal position last night. uh, you know, obviously he's had his losses. I think he's grown up from those losses. So at the end of the day, I don't think he's letting them affect him at that point. Without a doubt. Shout out to you. D Tenzo says, are you mainly a statistician in football or what other sports? Yeah, football, basketball. When I start really focusing on that sport, like when we get into basketball and football starting to wind down, that's when I'll start getting into the basketball, and then we'll get into the college and all that kind of stuff. March Madness and all that stuff. That's when I'll start breaking down, stats as far as different players there too. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely started to really, really like this is my official third season. So this was the year where I said, you know what, I'm actually going to start taking it serious. And then I started actually breaking. I think maybe it was this beginning of this season in the preseason is when I really started breaking down stats. I really started looking at things from an unbiased point of view. And I really started understanding as far as the game in general, as far as how it plays on both sides of the field, offense, defense on both teams, and really started looking at it from a high level. And then that's kind of what put me into the spot of being, as far as being more critical, as far as on my own team, which is the Bills, and really understanding as far as, what we needed to do to be successful and how things go and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I've been 100% because I haven't, but I do have a winning record as far as predictions. And I'll tell you why. I do think I have a great prediction record right now because my ability to leave betting out of it hasn't clouded my judgment as far as, oh, I feel like this team's going to win. And the people who, win money off my predictions, they hit me up, send me tips or whatever, send me donations. So I don't need to bet anymore. And it's helped me become, as far as thinking, a lot more clear as far as who I pick when I'm looking at these analytics and these stats, and I'm not going from, an emotional point of view or a biased point of view, and just looking at it from there. So yeah, shout out to you, man. Uh, Says I'm going to take everyone you picked on my sheet this week. Hope I win. Shout out to you, Sabrina. Let's go. Shout out to you. Yeah, I mean, last week, if you would have took if you'd have did different various sets of like fours, you definitely would have won. And then what most people do is they just basically take the list that I have as far as predictions go, and they just do them one by one, and pick it from there. Like I tell you guys, always do your own due diligence, right? Always look into it yourself. Never take anybody's advice at 100%. Do your own due diligence. Look at the stats, look at what this team does, go back and look at the highlights, look at who's balling, look at who's not, and then obviously, take that advice and match it up with your own, and then make your decision and go from there. CIX says the mafia will come knocking on your door if you're too good at the picks. Right? That's why you got to be like just okay, just stay below the radar, but do okay. Says I heard people say this past game takes Purdy out of the MVP conversation. Is that true? No, no. We were talking about this earlier, and I don't think it does. I don't think it takes him out of the conversation for multiple reasons, right? If you look at the standpoint of what Purdy has done the whole season, he's been nothing short of phenomenal. He holds current number one placements for different various stats. So we're not just going to say, oh, you're no longer in the MVP conversation for one game. Like I said earlier, if you continue on to not being or playing at that level that you were playing at, then we may include someone else in the conversation. But I do still feel like you should be in that conversation for the work that you've done. I think we get into this thing as far as where we start taking away um, people's momentum that they've built just because of one game. And I don't think it's really fair because these guys step out on the field, they go out there, they risk their lives, they really do. And we should definitely celebrate when they play well, just as well as we knock them for when they don't. And at the end of the day, like we always say, you're only as good as your last game. But the reality is this: when you put in the work, when you've actually went out there and played ball, and you put the team on your shoulders, you should still be rewarded and praised for that. So there you go, there you go. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Week 17 power rankings, week 17 predictions. Shout out to you guys for rocking with your boy Jay. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll get into some more news, some more content. I do want to break down Miami and the Ravens a little bit further. Maybe a couple other games. We'll probably get into that tomorrow. And then we'll have Thursday Night Football. So make sure you guys lock it in, subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow. You guys have a great night. Peace out.